G'day ladies and gentlemen, Scotty D here from the Australis Tabletop Wargaming Network, and welcome into our next installment in our series, How to Play Warhammer 40,000 10th Edition. Alrighty everyone, today's video, as I've already mentioned, is the next installment in our How to Play Warhammer 40,000 10th Edition series here on the ATWN, where we continue to look at the core mechanics of the game, how to construct your army list, and the different ways that you're able to play the game by looking at and starting to get into how to go about setting up a game of Warhammer 40,000. Now, we'll be discussing what you need to follow when you are going to set up a game and what is involved when you are playing your games of Warhammer 40,000. So to kick straight off into this, once you have organized a game with someone, you actually need to agree on the points level that you are choosing to play and put together an army list for that points level. Now, if you do need a refresher, feel free to go and check the How to Build an Army List video earlier in this series for another walkthrough on how to go about building an army list as well. Now, after you have got your army list and you've met up with your opponent for the game, you'll need to determine the mission that you are going to play. Now, this could just be the Only War mission from the core rulebook, or a Crusade mission, or even using the Leviathan chapter approved mission pack. Now, for this video, we're actually going to go through the Leviathan chapter approved mission pack, as they are likely the most common way that you'll be playing your games throughout 10th edition. However, the chapter approved missions do change over time as well, so bear that in mind with some of these elements, as various elements of creating the missions may change, but the core process should still remain the same, we hope. Now, the Leviathan missions are created by using a set of cards that have your deployment, a mission rule, and primary mission that you'll be playing. Now, to determine your mission, you have to shuffle each of these separate decks together, and you draw a single deployment card, a single mission rule, and a single primary mission at random. Or you can choose to play one of the pre-generated missions from the Leviathan tournament pack that is available on the Warhammer community website if you want to play a specific fixed mission as well. Now, once you have determined the mission, read through the cards and make sure that both yourself and your opponent understand what they are going to mean for your game and how they are going to work. Once you have done so, you'll then need to set up the objective markers for your game. These should be markers that are of some kind that are 40 millimeters in diameter. If you have got the Leviathan cards, they should come with 6 40 millimeter markers that you could use. Or you could use, and these are quite common, some 7.5 or 7.5 inch diameter neoprene objective markers to show where the actual distance is from that center objective is for when you're counting in actually being within that range of that objective marker as well. We do have some ATWN neoprene objective markers as well that are available on our Ko-Fi page. So if you would like to support the network and get some cool swag to use in your games to rep the ATWN, feel free to check out the link down below for our Ko-Fi page. Now, when you're going to set up your objectives, the deployment card will actually show you where the objective markers need to be set up on the battlefield. Now, there are two different mission rules, for example, that will change that. One is Chosen Battlefield, which is where you actually get to place your own objectives as the players, and the other one is Hidden Supplies, which adds an additional objective onto the battlefield as well. Now, for example, for the Search and Destroy deployment that we're going to pull up on screen, you have one objective in the center of the battlefield and one objective marker that is in the center of each table quarter as well. Now, there are some rules around how objective markers work in the game, and I want to cover them in this video to keep all the information around objective markers together. Now, during your games, the objective markers are the main way to score points to win your games. If a model is within 3 inches horizontally or 5 inches vertically of the objective marker, it counts being within range of that objective. Now, the level of control that an objective marker has is determined by counting up the objective control value of each model that is within range of the objective marker. Now, if both players have got models within range of the same objective, then you actually compare the objective control value total for both players, and whichever player has got the higher result counts as controlling the objective. If both players actually tie, then the objective is currently contested. Now, the core rules state that models cannot end or move on top of an objective marker. However, most players will follow the Leviathan tournament packs ruling the models can actually end their move on top of an objective marker, so you do not need to stress too much about that one. Now, once you have placed all of the objective markers on the table that you are playing on, you then need to create the battlefield that you'll be fighting over. So traditionally, the mission cards and deployments for where the objectives are actually placed are meant to be played on a table that's about 44 inches wide and 60 inches in length. However, you are able to play on a table that is larger or smaller or approximately the same size as this one if you wish to do so. You just might have to adjust some of the measurements for where those objectives do go. Now, the battlefield is made up of several terrain features that have got their own rules in the core rules for 10th edition, and we'll be doing a video on those terrain rules as well as how to set up a table of terrain to play on later on in this series as well. Now, after you've created your battlefield, you then need to determine who is going to be the attacker and who is going to be the defender. So to do so, both players roll a d6, and whoever rolls the highest gets to choose who will be the attacker and who will be the defender. Now, the attacker and the defender have their own deployment zones on the deployment zone card, and this can be an important decision to make when you are playing your games. So after you've determined who is the attacker and defender, each player then gets to pick their secondary missions. Now, there are two different forms of secondary missions that you can choose from, which are the fixed objectives and the tactical objectives. Now, the fixed objectives option is where you pick 2 out of a range of 7 different objectives that you have to score throughout the entirety of your game that you're trying to achieve. Now, with fixed objectives, you can only score up to a maximum of 20 points for each individual secondary objective for the fixed ones. However, if you go with the tactical secondary option, this is where you shuffle the deck of all 16 secondary objectives together, and each turn, if you do not have 2 tactical objectives available to score during that turn, you draw the new secondary cards until you have 2 secondaries that you're potentially able to score as well. Now, if you choose this tactical secondary option, you have access to a stratagem called New Orders, where in your command phase you can spend 1 command point and choose one of your active secondary objective cards that you've either just drawn, or I believe it could be an existing one as well, and you can discard it and draw 1 new secondary objective card, but you can only use the New Order stratagem once per game. At the end of each player turn, other than Battle Round 5, if you do not manage to achieve one or both of your secondary objectives, you can choose to discard them if you wish to do so, and by doing so, you'll gain 1 additional CP if you discard 1 or more secondaries in this way. Now, once you have decided which form of secondary objectives you're wanting to play, then each player gets to declare their battle formations. Now, during this step, this is where both players will decide the following: which of their leader units will start the battle attached to a bodyguard unit, and you must specify which character will join which units from your army will be starting the game embarked in dedicated transports, and which units from your army will be starting the battlefield in reserves. Each player is limited to only having up to half the total number of units and up to half the total number of points from your army starting in reserves, and units that are embarked within a transport that it is in reserves does count towards this limit as well. So that is something to bear in mind. Now, after the players have declared their chosen battle formations, it's then time to deploy your armies on the battlefield. Now, players alternate deploying units, starting with the player who is the defender, and a player's models must be wholly set up within their deployment zone. There are a few exceptions to this, which we'll cover in a future video as well. Now, once both players have finished deploying all of their units, it is now time to roll off, and the winner of that roll-off gets to go first in the start of the game. But before the first battle round begins and the first player has taken their turn, if a player has any pre-battle rules that they need to resolve, now is the time that they actually need to do so, starting with a player who will be taking the first turn. And now you are ready to wage war in the 41st millennium with your army on the tabletop. Alrighty, ladies and gentlemen, well, I hope that you have enjoyed this next installment in our How to Play Warhammer 40,000 10th Edition series, where we looked at how to go about setting up a game to play Warhammer 40k for 10th Edition, and hopefully this will help kind of clear up some things if you aren't sure how to actually go through your pre-game process and what's involved in it. I know the Leviathan card pamphlet that comes with that can be quite confusing, and different things are in different spaces, and so I did grab the relevant areas and kind of chunk them together rather than following what the actual document was suggesting on there as well. Now, if you did enjoy this video, ladies and gentlemen, feel free to like the video. If you have any feedback or any questions or anything, feel free to leave a comment down below. And if you want to catch more content from us here at the ATW, make sure to hit that subscribe button, turn on the notification bell so you're able to be notified as to when we're releasing more videos here, whether that is going to be our tournament coverage from the Pantheon GT, or maybe we are doing some more from Spirited Tabletop videos and the alike as well. Or if you do have any questions and you want to catch us when we are live, you should go and follow our Twitch channel, where we do live streams on Monday and Friday nights consistently for hobbying sessions with myself, but also we do tournament coverage and a variety of other pieces of information, whether that's the South Pacific ITC snapshot, or we do tournament previews for the tournaments we're covering as well, which has got a lot of info there too. But ladies and gentlemen, I hope you've enjoyed this video, and I'll catch you in the next one.